Well, hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, gee jolly willikers, it's good to have you aboard the love train. As we have a look at the WZ-120 now, this will finally fulfill the compact I made with the devil to actually do all the Chinese mediums up to the 121, because man, I've tried to do this video a lot of times. No, you know what? I'm a positive person. I start positive with most things. I want to be upbeat about things. So I want to be nice about this. It's got a great camo scheme. It's got that Chinese water dragon camo scheme that looks like the old 64-bit Nintendo stuff, and that's really exciting and deflated sighing. Look, I think it's pants tank, and I've been pretty spot on lately with the tanks that I've called pants, because Wargaming has gone and buffed them not long after I've done videos, which has been pretty annoying. I got to tell you, when you put a lot of time and effort in doing a T110E3 being the worst tier 10 tank video, and then they go and buff the bloody thing, and you forced yourself to drive what you consider the worst tier 10 tank, then you can get a little bit irate about these things. You can feel like someone out there is having a sneaky giggle at your expense. And I feel like that's what's going to happen with the WZ-120. I feel like I started this video 5 times. I tried to make the video a whole bunch of times, and every time I'd get through a game or two in the tank and just go, oh, it's just a turd. It's just a steaming pile of excrement. And it would make me upset, and I'd put the tank away and I'd play something else that was actually fun and enjoyable, and everyone was happier. But now we've come to the part of the movie where I actually have to tell you about the tank, and gee, look, it's bad. It's really bad, and I can tell that after I do this video, they're going to buff the thing, because that's how they work. They like to make my videos redundant, ASAP. Let's talk about some of the bad things. I've told you it's got great camo, and I think the Chinese have the best camos in the game, than the French. But the bad things, and I'll get to them now, the penetration. The penetration is a god-awful blight upon tanking, the pantheon of tanking justice. It's got 220 millimeters of penetration. Now, a lot of tanks, you can fix the penetration by running calibrated shells, and you can take the slight dent in DPM. You can't do that with this tank, because if you lower the DPM any further, they have to put it back in tier 5, and it would screw the matchmaking up altogether. I'm going to show you a couple of clips now. Well, you just saw how hard it was to pen that E75 with AP, and you think, okay, E75, big tough dog. Here I'm going to show you a couple of clips. I mean, look at the gun depression. I haven't mentioned that yet, but the gun depression's pretty bad too. In fact, it's the worst gun depression in its tier. It's got 3 degrees of gun depression. And all these numbers are with the 122mm gun, which, by the way, I'm not recommending you use. If you absolutely insist on playing this tank and refuse my advice to just free XP the bloody thing, then you'll try and run it with the 100mm gun and run it as a dodgy version of the T54. That's me bouncing the turret of the FV4202. He is going to eat my lunch, because the DPM on this tank is so god-awful that you just quite simply cannot keep up with anything like a tier 10 medium. And your armor's not that great. Like, let's be upfront about this. Your armor is just quite simply not that good, and you roll under 400 all the time. So that's well under 400, that bloke. We're going to roll 3, not enough, and he's just going to eat us alive. And why is that tank so hard to pen for me? Because it's got 220mm of pen, the WZ-120, and I don't want to carry on. I don't want to be really negative. I'm not big on negatives, but I feel like it's my civic duty to make sure that the greater part of the populace understands this is a horrible tank, and it should not be driven except under extreme circumstances where you're desperate to self-harm. Now, I know that people out there are going to say, well, I love the tank, Bushka. I happen to love the tank, and you just can't drive the tank. If you were like me, you'd be a super unicum, and you'd be able to drive the tank with 3,000 average damage all day bloody long. And I'd say to you, it's my official response. Because basically, there's some people out there who are really, really good, and they can drive anything they want and do really, really well in it. I won games in this. I won a reasonable amount of games, but my damages were pretty bloody low. And this isn't a review for all you special humans who think you're God's own gift to this green earth. It is a review for the 90% of the populace who are out there and just quite simply will get to this tank and want to bite through the carbon fiber of the iPad that they are currently driving because it's bad in so many ways. And all the badness gathers together to exacerbate the situation. For instance, I'm forced on this flank to try to find targets because I can't push up any further than this. I have 3 degrees of gun depression, so I've got to try and find places where I can keep the gun at ground level kind of thing, or at least have targets that are slightly above me, and that way I can always hit them. If I try and go to the middle of the map and use the hills either side of the encounter cap circle there, I won't get shots. I won't be able to put the gun down. And likewise, if I try and move back and put shots, use gun depression, you just can't do it. And the worst thing about this is you've got to kind of vampire off other people, because if you put yourself in a position where you get pushed on, you get eaten alive. I'm going to run you off a couple of tanks that you might be surprised to know have more DPM than damage per minute than this tank, this tier 9 medium, the WZ-120. The Carnarvon, the tier 8 heavy. The KV5, the tier 8 premium heavy. They have more DPM. The Chieftain T95 has 40 less DPM per minute, which is pretty negligible. They're tier 8 heavies, by the way. Tier 8 heavies. At tier 9, pretty much everyone you ever met, their brother, their sister, their dog, their accountant, have more damage per minute than you. Why is that even such a bad thing? Because DPM can be one of the most overrated stats. Well, the way your DPM delivered is in 400 alpha strikes. At tier 8, a medium with 400 alpha is actually a little bit of a difference maker. 400 alpha is not often seen in a tier that's mostly got around about 200 alpha guns, unless you're in a Russian style medium with a 100mm gun where you'll hit for 280 kind of thing. At tier 9, the PTA has 350, the E50 has 350 alpha, the M46 Patton has 350 alpha. All those tanks have decent wads of alpha damage, and yet they give up so little for it. The PTA has a laser cannon. It has massive DPM. It has 50 alpha. It has superb mobility. It has no armor for that. Great. It does have a lot more gun depression than 5 degrees. The M46 Patton has average armor at best, but let's be honest, it's a sweet looking ride. It has 3,000 damage per minute. Has gun depression to burn. It's got superb on the move firing. I mean, it's got stuff. You give up. I mean, look, that Chieftain has the same DPM as you, right? He's a tier 8 heavy. He's got, I mean, your penetration is 220 millimeters. 220 millimeters of pen on your AP rounds. 220 millimeters of pen on your AP rounds. The E50 has that kind of an issue with its pen, but it's got a laser beam for a gun. So you don't have any DPM. Your penetration's crap. What do you have? Well, you've got the worst gun depression in your tier at 3 degrees, which is really tough to deal with because it means you can't just manufacture shots whenever you want. And I don't understand why they gave this unholy triumvirate of destruction to the tank. Like, if you are a new player and you are grinding up this line, what must you be thinking? Because you don't have the skills, and you don't have the spare parts, and you don't have the crew skills, and you're getting a tank that is just so difficult to play, and you're playing against tier 10 tanks. And I mean, I play this pretty solid, this game, and Look at the gun depression. I can't just roll up to this corner and then look at the penetration. And then look at the gun handling. Please tell me which part of this is the positive that this tank gets. If you really want to play this tank, and you have to play it, run the 100mm gun. Make it like a balked T54. It's not quite as good as a T54, but you get 5 degrees of gun depression, and that's 40% more than the gun depression you get with the unique selling point 122mm gun this tank has. Like 40% more. That's insanity. Like the E50 has bad gun depression, but it can get gun depression over the sides of the tank. You don't get that luxury. And it staggers me that they've done this. It really does. Like, I don't understand. You saw that IS-8 go screaming past. He has more DPM than you. He has 258mm of pen on his gun. He's got exactly the same just about dispersion on his gun. No, 0.34. It's the same dispersion. I mean, he has slightly more aim time, but he has 2 degrees more gun depression. Like, you'd be better off driving an IS-8 than this tank all day long. All day long. And twice on Sundays. I don't know what else to tell you guys. It's such a bad tank. And I think it's going to get buffed. Like, I can't see any way this tank doesn't get buffed. I absolutely don't see it. And before someone jumps in the comments section and goes, "This is ridiculous, Bushka. I've mastered this tank twice this week." Mastering a tank really easily means that no one's driving it. If you're not getting 1500 XP to get a mastery in a tier 9 tank, it's because there's not a lot of people driving it. Like 1300, 1400 XP. Look at that gun depression. I got to back up to get a shot. 3 degrees of gun depression. If you've ever driven the SU100, the 100M1 and that, you'd know what I'm talking about when I say bad gun depression can drive you insane. But they're TDs. They're TDs. They're very, very different. They've got high DPM, really good guns that are not Russian at all. This thing is not. This is a .344 dispersion, 122mm with absolutely crap penetration numbers that are less than some tier 8 heavy tanks, and ridiculously bad DPM that is less than some tier 8 heavy tanks. And I don't know why they built it like this. It's a truth that is self-evident that this tank is a steaming pile of grasshopper turd. What's positive? Nothing. What should you do with this tank? Well, they invented free XP for a reason, boys and girls. And I'm sorry that this video has gone just so far down the rabbit hole of negativity. But I feel I am honor bound to let you know that this tank should not be driven while not under the influence of alcohol or performance-enhancing drugs. Otherwise, you're going to get really upset. And even then, you'll probably get really upset anyway, because it just doesn't do the business. And people will push on you. Like, I find this tank on the battlefield, and if I'm in a T62A, I just start laughing my ass off and pushing on it and face hugging it and doing everything I can to it, because all it has to do is miss one shot and it's dead. It's got 1100 less DPM than your top tier 10 mediums. 1100. That's a staggering amount. That means you have basically 40% less DPM than your competitors when you're playing tier 10 games and they push on you. The 62As, the Leopard 1s, the Object 140s, they will shred you. They will shred you. They will tear you limb from limb. And they get sometimes, they get opportunities to put 2 shots into one, and that's with guns that have penetration and a laser beam like. And you fight those kind of guys all the time. You will see 183s and you will see Object 268s and E4s and E3s like this game all the time, because tier 9 gets a lot of tier 10, and you'll be called upon to brawl those tanks. And when you have to brawl, when you spent like 4 or 5 games in a row having to fight tier 10 mediums with better armor profiles, better gun handling, much higher rates of damage and firepower, and better gun depression, you're just ready to give in. And that's why it's taken me so long to do this review. I'll be back from New York really soon. I'm having a great time here, but I'm missing all of you. I'm missing being involved. I'm missing the Discord chat, the Telegram channel giggle. I'm missing the live streams. I'm missing all that stuff. And as much as I'm having a fantastic family holiday, Like today we went to Central Park and Junior and I played hoops on the New York City Central Park courts, and I threw down a dunk for Australia, and it was just amazing, and everyone's having a great time, and eating bagels and getting big and tubby, and I'm enjoying it. But boys and girls, I can't wait to get back into the land of tanking humans. I'm really looking forward to it. Look after yourselves, and until next time, please, please, please stay safe on the battlefield, and bye for now.